Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello and welcome to the School of Love, the place where we learn practical tools based on scientific research towards improving ourselves, living life to its fullest, and contributing to the best of our abilities to the world around us. I am Dr. Grajdian, and I'm a professor of media studies and anthropology at Hiroshima University. In my free time, I'm doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities of the real world. In today's video, I talk about consistency and deliver 10 guidelines on how to build a sense of sustainable consistency. I begin by defining consistency, then by discussing why and how it is important to be consistent in your daily endeavors, and how to encourage consistency in others, so that by the end of this video you will have the tools to start living, moving, thinking like a person who is consistent out of his or her free will and not due to social constraints. A life lived out of one's free will in doing better is much more beautiful than a life lived under constraints. But now, first things first, that is to disclaimers. The first disclaimer serves to strongly emphasize the fact that this YouTube channel, the School of Love, is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. Together, we can build up a better tomorrow for as many of us as possible. The second disclaimer relates to the fact that I am a trained musician and musicologist, not a psychologist, therapist, or counselor. The ideas I am sharing in my videos reflect my deep-going preoccupation with life, my own life and other people's lives, and express the results of my experiences, research, and for better or for worse, failures, as well as my recovery from those failures, recovering which is continuously ongoing. The ideas expressed in these videos on the channel named The School of Love cannot and may not and must not replace the consultation with specialists in whichever areas of your life you might have questions or you might struggle with. If you are new to the channel, at this moment I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very, very much. This helps us not only with that mysterious algorithm which seems to dominate the YouTube galaxy, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. With that being said, let's dive right into today's topic, which is, as I said, 10 guidelines on how to develop consistency, that is sustainable consistency. So what is consistency and why is consistency so important? Consistency is this ability to do the things you have promised to do and to do it on a regular basis. So not only once, so I promise to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I wake up one day and I stop waking up, but doing it regularly. This connects to the ability to do what you promise you would do, and then so that people can rely on your word. And why is it important? It's important because this creates a solid foundation for social cohesion and for later on for social solidarity. Without consistency, without believing that other people are consistent, and without implementing consistency in my own life, society doesn't work. It breaks apart. But it must be a healthy sense of consistency results from doing it out of one's own free will and not out of social constraint. A life lived in the shadow of social constraint is a very unhappy life. A life lived in the name of one's own free will and the free decision to do good in the world is a life of joy and of positive radiance. And more importantly, we have nowadays this choice. We have the choice if we want to live according to social norms, or if we want to live and have a positive impact on the world. We have the choice to do it. I do it because I want it, and I'm going to come back down later on what it means, this I wanted. Or I'm doing it because I have no other choice, because the society forces me to. In one case, we build up a mindset of commitment and the happiness which comes from that commitment. In the second case, we build up a life of unhappiness and increasing resentment, which then leads automatically to very negative outcomes. And even if that doesn't happen within one's individual life, it will impact negatively the society long term, so outside the very limited, biologically limited time frame of an individual's life. So let's get started. So what is the first step? The first step is what I have just done, is to develop this importance of awareness, develop an understanding of awareness as why consistency is important. It is important because being myself consistent and being able to trust that other people are consistent, that they are doing what they say they will be doing, and not only once but on a regular basis, is a very solid foundation for any healthy society. And developing consistency means that you do what you do out of your free will, and this awareness of the impact this will have on the society, on those around you, and not because you are forced to. This is a huge difference, a subtle but a very big difference. The second step is, which I have already suggested, is to develop self-awareness. So why is it important for me as an individual to be consistent? And how can I make sure that my consistency is because I decided, I have made the commitment to do it, and not because I am pushed and forced by society or by those around me? In first case, so developing this self-awareness will lead to understand whether you do it because you have decided to, and then move on accordingly, or move forward accordingly, or because those around you force you, and then move forward accordingly again. Yeah. So and developing this sense of self-awareness is crucial so that you make informed decisions. In order to be productive and reliable and responsible members of the society, we have to develop self-awareness and to understand our contribution, both positive contribution and negative contribution to the society. Number 3, related to this too, to developing a sense, to understand the importance of awareness related to consistency, and to develop the sense of self-awareness related to your commitment to become more consistent or to increase your consistency, refers to the third step is, therefore, to learn to sense the spirit of time. And why is it important? Because depending on social, on historical context, different values are important, and different values stay at the forefront of the world. So number 4 would be then understand that the world is moving according to specific values, and these values represent symbols or the essence of number 3, which was the spirit of time. And let's take a very concrete example. For instance, I always give it: do not kill as a fundamental precept of Western ontology. It's one of the 10 commandments Moses received from God on the Mount of Sinai, and they're fundamental for our worldview. But there are times when killing turns from being something bad, something to be banned from our life, into a virtue. And these are the times of war, when killing your enemy is actually a virtue because you're protecting your own people, and this is what you're supposed to do as as a citizen of a nation. So you see, depending on the time, depending on the historical period, things which are banned at other times, they become necessary. This is why it's important to understand the spirit of time. What is important in your time? What does your time prefer, acknowledge, appreciate, reward? And then to combine the spirit of time with your understanding of values as being fundamental in how we drive our lives. And then number 5, to understand that values, they do not change. Values usually don't change. It's very difficult to change values. What changes is the position of the values within the so-called hierarchy of values, again, to quote Jordan Peterson. And this is changing. The hierarchies of values, the inner structure of hierarchies of values is changing, not the values themselves. As in the example with do not kill. So, and in developing consistency, so doing the thing you have promised to do, and do it regularly if this is the promise you have made. If it's not, then of course you don't have to repeat it. But if it's something like in one's attempt, in our attempt to build up more discipline, consistency is key, right? So, but how do you, in order to develop discipline, you have to develop consistency. So this is why I'm talking about consistency. And when in the process of developing discipline and consistency in this case, it's very important to understand that motivation, I do it because I feel motivated to do, is an emotion. And like any emotion, disappears, goes. So emotion comes from the Latin word emovere, which means it's on the move, all the time on the move. So you cannot rely on motivation. You cannot rely on an emotion. This is why, for instance, love is a very powerful emotion. It comes and goes. So when you make a commitment to someone, it's very important to understand you do not make that commitment based on love. You make that commitment based on your decision to do whatever it takes, that it is included in the commitment, but it is not based on love. It's not based on an emotion. And your consistency, like discipline which is based on consistency, transcends motivation. You do things not for the rewards, which are these dopamine kicks being released in your brain, but because you must do them. And in this procedure, you do it because you have to do, not because you want it, not because you feel motivated, not because you like it, you love it. No, you do it because you have to do it. This is fundamental. And sometimes, of course, you won't feel like being consistent in whatever you have promised to do, but nevertheless, you have to do it because you have promised, and because a promise is essentially a contract. So, in order to develop consistency, you have to start small. This means develop a daily routine for whatever you're doing. A small routine, a routine which refers to, wake up at 6 in the morning. You'll have to take, if you're someone who wakes up at 12 in the afternoon, you'll have to take it very gradually until you get to 6 o'clock in the morning. It's meaning like from not 12 o'clock, but then 11:45 and then 11:30, and so gradually. There are many books on this topic. I'm not going to delve more deeply into it. So developing a daily routine, which you then extend to weekly and monthly routine. I think that's, but the daily one is the most important. The way you structure the smallest measurable unit in your life, which is a day, and this circadian rhythm, which dominates how we live throughout the day. Developing a daily routine which you implement to the best of your abilities. There are moments when you won't be able to implement it. And this is how, when I come to number 8, is that you understand your life is your responsibility. Therefore, take radical responsibility, again, to quote Jordan Peterson, and extreme ownership, to quote Jocko Willing, for your own life by implementing ironclad discipline. And you can, in order to implement discipline, you have to implement this consistency. It's important to understand that procrastination and avoidance only serve as instant gratification and for short-term delay of the consequences. So that you have to train yourself instead of delaying and procrastination and avoiding, to choose long-term benefits, even if they are painful in the moment. So that you do the things not for the rewards, but because you must do them. So this is very important. Yeah, many people think, I will do because I like it. I want to do whatever I like. Whatever you will do in life. If you want to become an expert in that area, and I'll talk in another video about expertise and why it is so important to become an expert in 1 year. And we live very long lives, and we'll have, unless you make yourself irreplaceable in whatever manner, you'll have a big problem after the age, let's say 40, 45, or you'll have to reinvent yourself the way I did. So you have to train yourself to choose long-term vision and benefits instead of short-term convenience and comfort. I'm not talking about getting out of your comfort zone and so on. This is not part of this video. What I'm talking about, always look ahead. When you feel like doing something now, like for instance, let's take this example. You decide, you make the commitment with yourself to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, because you have read, and this is correct, that waking up in the morning very early gives you more energy and more time to do the things you would like to do. But then one night you sleep poorly and you wake up completely confused, and you actually are kind of frustrated and resentful that you woke up confused and you cannot do that thing. And you will say, okay, today I'll just pass. One day will become two, will become three. Your decision, your commitment to be consistent is gone. So this means, like, even in the days you don't feel like waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, let's say you wake up at 6:30 or maybe 7, but wake up in within a reasonable time frame. And the same goes for instance, for eating more healthily, something, or losing weight and so on, something I'm more, let's say I have more experience with. If you decide I'm going to eat more, it's not about deciding I'm going to eat less unhealthy food. It's about I'm going to decide I'm going to eat more healthy food. And every time you find yourself tempted to do something which clashes against your commitment to consistency, pause, stop, don't do it, stop. This is one of the best piece of advice I have received in my life. Every time you feel like doing something which clashes against your better self and you know it, stop. Just stop. And that is a big part of the solution. So number 9, I'm very full aware that building up consistency, becoming a more consistent person, is not an easy task. So I'm not going to say just do it. I know it's difficult. So let's say you allow yourself a cheat day, meaning a day in which you don't wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So a day in which you do not follow the routine, which actually is healthy if done properly. I also have at least 1 or 2 days per week, so 1 day per week, 2 days per 10 days, in which I just don't follow any routines, in which I just allow myself to live freely. But what's important is, first of all, to be aware of that you're doing this. So to be part of a standard protocol you have set up before that. So it's not something which just interferes with your commitment. It's something you have decided as being part of it. So if you allow yourself a cheat day in which you do not follow this routine, which is supposed to set up and to increase your consistency, make sure that you either do the part you skip before that day, which is preferable, or after that day, which more often than not leads to slacking and poor rationalization for not doing it, respectively for indefinitely postponing it. So let's say you decide one day, I wake up tomorrow is my cheat day, tomorrow I do whatever I want. It's correct. But let's say that day is, well, you still have some commitments. Yeah, let's say you still have to buy some food, you still have to cook, you still have to clean. I don't know. Do what you have to do before that day. You can also, of course, do it afterwards, but experience and research shows that if you say, I'll do it later, you don't do it anymore. So it's important that you do it the day before. This is what I do. When I know, let's say Sunday, usually Sunday is my day when I don't follow any routines, when I don't do anything. And as I said, every 10 days I allow myself 2 days in which I don't do anything, in which I just, relax and allow my brain to recharge with, creative energy. But in those days, I still have to live, and my family still needs me, and I still have to clean and cook and so on. So in those days, I do those things before the cheat day, not after, before. And then I also have a free mind because I know I have fulfilled my duties. So it's not about really building up consistency. Is not about becoming a robot. It is much more about becoming a reliable person, someone who says what they mean and they do what they say, and they mean what they say, and they say what they do. Not someone who's a chaotic person, which creates chaos around him or her. Number 10. Find an accountability buddy. This is actually not mandatory. You don't have to. So for consistency, you don't necessarily need an accountability buddy, but it makes things easier. Because to this accountability buddy, you report every time you have bent the consistency. And regardless of how insignificant that specific lack of consistency might have been, let's say you, instead of 6 o'clock in the morning, you wake up at 7, you tell them, I woke up at 7 o'clock, and the person would probably tell you, yeah, I know, tomorrow you do your best to wake up at 6 o'clock again in the morning. So it has to be a person who's not judging you, who's not too close to you, because then that person will have his or her days in which is not as strong anymore either. So so best solution in my experience is to have some sort of, like, in my case, I have an accountability buddy, but not for consistency, for something else. And he's a former co-worker with whom I still keep a sort of cordial relationship, cordial friendship. And he knows me well enough. We used to work together, but he's not close enough so that he feels the need to protect me from my own lack of boundaries or consistency. Yeah? So someone like distant enough, but still powerful enough. And I have a bonus, number 11, because this is important. This is an important guideline, but I couldn't include it in the previous 10, which is to learn to perceive and observe things without judgment. So the goal of building of this procedure of this protocol of building consistency is not to develop self-criticism. It's not to turn into your worst critic, which some of us are. The goal is actually to become a better person. The goal is to and to become more self-compassionate, to observe yourself with compassion, with kindness, and to accept yourself as being a human being, a work in progress, not someone perfect. And again, the goal of this procedure is not to become perfect, it's just to improve yourself and to become a better contributor to the society and to those around you, not to become perfect. So, and developing this sense of kindness, of self-compassion, of self-respect, of gentleness towards oneself is, I believe it is crucial, and in this protocol. This is why I included it as number 11, a small bonus, because it's so important. So that would be for today. So thank you very much for joining me today. As always, I'm very happy to share with you these insights, these ideas, and I'm very much looking forward to welcoming you again very soon. Love and peace to you all.